Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this live Q&A about the international law programs here at the University of Glasgow. My name is Dr. James Devaney. I am a senior lecturer in international law here at the University of Glasgow. I'm also the program convener for the International Law LLM, one of the programs that we're going to be speaking about today, along with the International Law and Security LLM. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself very briefly and what I do here at the University of Glasgow, also a bit more about international law at Glasgow, and then we're going to have a chat with one of our current LLM students who's going to share some of their thoughts and experiences of the LLM, and we'll also take questions from you, the audience. So as I said, I'm James. I actually did the LLM in international law here at the University of Glasgow some years ago before I did my PhD. And I've been teaching here for the last 9 years now. I teach a couple of courses on the LLM. So if you come to Glasgow and you take the International Courts and Tribunals class, for example, I will be teaching in that class, and there we'll be discussing exciting issues relating to, for example, highly political cases brought before the International Court of Justice, for example, between Ukraine and Russia, or South Africa and Israel, and also cases maybe about climate change and nuclear weapons. Or if you're interested maybe in international investment law, I also convene that course, and we talk about this very exciting and active area of international law with lots and lots of international litigation that maybe some of you will want to do one day in the future. Now, I would say international law at Glasgow is a very vibrant and active community. We have more than 20 international lawyers here. We do a lot of international law. Some of our colleagues are, myself included, involved in real life cases, for example, before the International Court of Justice. Others are working in international criminal law. Others work for international organizations. So we don't just bring academic expertise to the table. We also bring real life practical experience. And Glasgow is also the home, and our activities are sort of focused around the Glasgow Centre for International Law and Security. And this is our research centre, the external face of international law at Glasgow. And through GSILS, the Glasgow Centre, we host quite a large number of events every year. Last year we had 13 different events where we invite guest speakers from outside Glasgow to come and speak to us, colleagues and students, about their current research, and also practitioners to come and speak to you. For example, we host a series called the International Law as a Profession series, and these are events where students can come and speak to people who are doing the types of jobs that you might want to do in the future, and we give you a chance to ask those people questions about how they got to where they are and how you might get to where they are one day as well. Apart from all of the events that we do, apart from the working papers that we publish, apart from all the research that we do in the teaching, what else can I say about life on the LLM? Well, if you study the LLM, one of the international law programs here at Glasgow, you'll really get a chance to study a very wide range of international law subjects, whether that's from international human rights law, international criminal law, international investment law, international humanitarian law, international law and security. You have the opportunity to choose from a range of different courses throughout the year. You will do 6 courses, 3 in each semester. That's between September and December, then typically with some exams in December, and then another 3 from January to March, then with some exams in April or May. And then over the summertime, you have to write a dissertation in a topic of either international law or international security, depending on which LLM program that you choose. Then if you manage to pass all of your classes and to write a good dissertation, then you will have achieved the LLM from the University of Glasgow and will be able to move on maybe to your own career in international law. So that's a very, very brief introduction to international law at Glasgow and also to the LLM programs. I would like to invite our guest today, Vesta, who is a current international law LLM student here. First of all, Vesta, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Do you mind giving us a very short introduction to you, who you are, and what you are studying, and so on? And then I have a few more questions for you.
Yeah, of course. I'm Besta. I am doing my international law LLM in the University of Glasgow this year. I'm from Turkey, but I moved to Glasgow 5 years ago for my LLB. So I actually did my undergraduate degree in common law LLB in the University of Glasgow as well. And I liked it so much, I decided to stay. So this is my 5th year in Glasgow.
So we're very happy, of course, that you decided to stay with us. But of course, you could have chosen to have gone anywhere else. There are many other great universities in the UK and Europe and beyond. So could you maybe tell us a bit about what made you decide to stay in Glasgow and to study for one more year at Glasgow on the LLM?
Yeah, I think there was quite a few factors because I did apply to a few other places in England and in Scotland as well, and I was a bit indecisive, I'm not gonna lie. But I started my LLB during COVID. So I always felt like I lost 2 years of my undergrad and my like university experience. And I'm kind of seeing this year as my way of just having those 2 years back. But I also feel like there was a lot of opportunities in my undergrad in Glasgow that I either missed or just wasn't aware because I was just getting adapted like, to the city, to the people in the city. And in terms of like law school, there's always so many opportunities going on, so many events, as you said as well. And I feel like I was only really aware of those in my last 2 years. And I felt like I can just make up for it with another year in my master's. And in the same way, I met a lot of lovely people in Glasgow, like both academically and socially. Like it was such a friendly city. And when I moved here from Turkey during COVID, it was quite difficult, quite challenging. And I just made some of my best friends in Glasgow, and they were all doing their diploma because they did Scots law. So that obviously influenced me as well. And I met like some incredible lecturers in my undergrad that really helped me just like decide on my career opportunities and get involved at so many other like events or like other things related to law. And I think just getting involved with more opportunities, meeting loads more lovely people, lovely lecturers, including like future career opportunities would be very helpful for me. And I'm really glad I decided to stay in Glasgow because it is really helping me. And I've met in the last 2-3 months of my LLM, I've met so many new, like incredible, accomplished people, which I'm hoping it would actually shape my future career as well.
Great, thank you for that. So you mentioned the last 2 to 3 months. I guess that covers the period that you've been studying the LLM so far. Could you just maybe say a bit more on how it has compared maybe to your undergrad or your experiences so far? And maybe as part of that, you could tell us about what's your favorite course that you have taken so far? And of course, no pressure to say that it is my course that is your favorite. You can be very honest with this and just give us a sense of what you have enjoyed so far and why.
Yeah, well, first of all, comparing my LLM to undergrad, I'm really enjoying the fact that it's a lot more interactive. I feel like we had like more interactive and engaging courses in honours in the last 2 years of your undergrad. But I feel like undergraduate students are always relatively a bit more shy to speak up or actually like engage in a class debate. Whereas I feel like in my LLM, most courses have very passionate student debates, and sometimes we get carried away, but I feel like being able to discuss such topical issues as we do in like international courts and tribunals as well, like the things that we see on the news, I think it's just an incredible opportunity to express our like opinions and just get into like a legal discussion about like such topical things in the classroom. And I feel like that's one of the main things about the LLM that I really like, because you actually get to be a lawyer and discuss the arguments and the counter arguments and see all the points of that thing and see maybe it's not just one-sided as you think in your personal life. Whereas in your undergrad, I feel like most courses are a bit more like superficial. You don't get to detail that much because obviously your knowledge and your expertise are not really enough to engage in that much detail. Whereas I feel like the things that we discuss in our LLM do combine like our daily lives and the topical issues and our like legal knowledge and interests, which I found really, really enjoyable. In terms of my favorite courses, so far I'm taking 3 courses this semester, and I think I'm really enjoying your course, International Courts and Tribunals, and Advanced Introduction to the Law of the UN. I think International Courts and Tribunals is quite a good one to take because it ties up all the courses we're taking currently. In most of my courses, we are doing cases in front of ICJ or like the arbitration mechanisms, the advisory opinions given by the ICJ. And I feel like having those first couple of weeks in International Courts and Tribunals where we did the ICJ functions, the composition of the ICJ, I think that gave me quite a good background in terms of like interpreting the other maybe more specific cases we have in front of the ICJ. I feel like I am understanding them a lot better, and maybe I have a different like point of view coming from the international courts and tribunals. I'm also really enjoying UN law because I've always been really interested in UN law. So it's quite an interesting thing to actually get into it and know how it works and what are the different functions or different organs of the UN. But I think that ties up to my like first point of it is different from undergrad because you get to do a lot of specialized courses. And international law, as you said in your introduction, it's such a wide range. Like you can do international human rights law, but you can also do trade law, and you can do them at the same time as well, which I find it really enjoyable.
Okay, thanks for that. And in terms of your colleagues, your peers on the LLM, would it be fair to say that you're coming into contact with a wide range of people from different backgrounds and different perspectives that maybe you don't experience on the undergraduate at Glasgow?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a very different experience coming to the LLM directly from undergrad, because I feel like in undergraduate you're relatively similar age range, similar backgrounds, whereas in LLM it's so many international students, which is lovely to see. So many different cultures, different backgrounds, different age range, and it's not even just specific to law. There are people who study different things and then decided to do law. So it's really good to see different like perspectives on the same issues, like people bringing their backgrounds, their like more opinions from other degrees, or their knowledge, because there are also people who practiced law before and now coming back to do their LLM, and it's really interesting just to like be friends with them or be in the same classroom and exchange opinions.
Yeah, that was my experience as well, the LLM. I mean, coming from the undergrad, and then suddenly you go from being in a class full mainly of other Scottish people to really being one of the only one or two Scottish people in a class full of people from all over the world. It was really like a very rewarding part of the LLM for me. We're obviously very happy that you decided to do the LLM at Glasgow, but you mentioned that you had thought about applying elsewhere. And I wonder if you could maybe just share a bit about your strategy or how you like went about like deciding and investigating other options during that year when you were maybe in the position that some of our audience are in at the moment of, weighing up their options, thinking about different paths that they might choose. How did you actually go about finding out more information and then ultimately deciding? Did you have conversations with other people who were already on the LLM, with maybe family members? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I'm not gonna lie, it was a very stressful procedure. So, like last year, that was me joining every like Q&A session, every Zoom session that I could find, and it is it's a very difficult process to sometimes decide because there are like pros and cons of every decision. About my personal experience, the first thing I did was literally just stalk the university, all the course options you could get, all the staff members, and if there are any specific like staff members or like research papers that you've read, or like any specific classes that you're interested in, and if you recognize like that lecturer or that staff member. I was lucky enough that I could go up to my lecturers and talk about the University of Glasgow's LLM, and I did have quite a few conversations about my current lecturers last year, and just had a chat with them about like what it's like to be an LLM student in University of Glasgow and what opportunities I could get, which is quite nice. But also, like, one of the things that I recommend is just go to as many Q&A sessions as you can with like other unis as well. And if you are doing like already a low LLM, and if you know people from that network, I did message quite a lot of my friends who were doing their LLMs in Glasgow or in any other universities, and just like heard about their experiences. And there is like Unibuddy, which is a like platform that you can ask like questions to the current existing like students or alumni. I am still volunteering in Unibuddy as like a student and answering questions of the prospect students, but I also myself ask questions to the existing students in other universities, which I found quite helpful because I feel like sometimes like students might have a different experience, or students coming from like a similar background to you in terms of university culture, like whatever, may have similar experiences to what you might have in that university. So I always find contacting those people more helpful than just reading stuff on the university's webpage, because I feel like that's more of a personal thing. um, it was definitely a difficult decision, but I think one thing that really helped me is the conversations I had with my lecturers last year, especially if there are fields of law that you're specifically interested in, and if you want to actually like go there, that if that's your career plan. I went to those lecturers, just had a chat with like, this is my plan. Would doing an LLM in University of Glasgow help me, or like, would it be not a great idea? Like, what else can I do? What are the alternatives? And like everyone was so helpful, and I was lucky enough that most of my lecturers did get back to me and had like conversations with me, and really helped me like decide. And I'm really happy I decided to stay in Glasgow.
Great, thank you. And I suppose I would just add at this point that if anyone, is from outside the University of Glasgow but still would like to speak to one of the international lawyers here, please feel free to drop us an email. We're always happy to answer any questions that you might have. I did that when I was thinking about applying to Glasgow. I got in contact, and the fact that I got a reply from someone there really sort of managed to answer some of my questions and my doubts, and I'm happy to do that, and my colleagues are happy to do that for anyone else as well. I see there's a question in the chat from Jordan Brink Murray, and I think it was similar to a question that I was going to ask you anyway, Besta. So maybe can just ask you to maybe say a bit about your experience of coming to Glasgow. This wasn't just for the LLM, this was a few years ago, as you said, but I think you can still very much share your experience of what it was like, maybe coming to the city, first of all. How was it moving to the west coast of Scotland? And then secondly, how was it joining UofG, integrating into the student body here at the University of Glasgow?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd say is it is cold. It is cold, I'm not gonna lie. And I think that was the first thing that I experienced. Like, I came from Turkey. Like, we do have winter as well, but not this much rain or this much cold. And that was something that really did stress me out a little bit. But I think it ended up being such a rewarding experience, and you kind of see your potential, what you can actually do, just like moving to another city, another culture that you maybe never lived before, maybe not speaking your first language. And the Scottish accent was a challenge for me personally, because I did go to an international school and I thought I knew English. And when I first moved here during COVID with masks and like 2 meter distance, that was a challenge. but people were so friendly and so helpful. Like, no one minded me asking 3 times, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. And I've never heard like anything like rude or anything like aggressive towards like my lack of awareness, my lack of knowledge on the like culture. And it was such a nice experience because like maybe you heard people say like, oh, people make Glasgow. And I always thought that was such like, you know, advertising thing, but people do genuinely make Glasgow. And I was lucky enough that I found like so many friends, and they literally made Glasgow a second home for me. And I'm so grateful for that. It's such a nice city. I feel like I was from Istanbul, so it's a big city with so many people, so it tends to be quite chaotic. So I'm really enjoying Glasgow because it is such a good balance. It's still a big city. There's loads of things to do, loads of activities to do, loads of people to meet, but it's not the chaos of like a big city of like maybe London, maybe like Istanbul, maybe New York. So you can always like find that quiet space and calm down and maybe have a bit of a like relaxing day if you want to.
I mean, that's true, right?
So
So the university is like situated in the West End, in the west part of the city, so slightly outside the city centre, and in quite a green part of the city as well. So it's near a big park, Kelvin Grove Park, and also near the Botanic Gardens. And many students, I think, live also in the West End, and so in that sense, it becomes a completely walkable daily life, I think. You don't have to get on the tube to go for 45 minutes to get to your classes. Many people are able to walk there and back. And I think that's one of the things that students tell me is one of the nicest things about the campus itself, as well as, you know, the nice old buildings, that the Harry Potter buildings that are here.
no, exactly. Like the campus is probably the most magical bit in the city. Like when I first came to visit Glasgow, when I was thinking about applying, that was the main bit that genuinely impressed me so much. It is like the Harry Potter campus. And as you said, like I myself walk to uni, it's 10 minutes to my class. Most of my other friends, they either walk or cycle, which is quite a nice experience because like it's so green and there's not that much traffic, so you can just like calmly have your earphones in and just have a walk to your 9 a.m., which is quite a nice experience, especially if you lived in a big city before. I think you'd understand and probably agree with me that it's nice to have a more calming experience. Um, but one thing I'd say about like actually getting into the student life and like integrating to the life in the university is like definitely join the student societies. Like that, I think that actually changed and shaped my student life in university. I made some of my best friends there. I made some of my best memories in my university life. It's such a good experience being a part of a community, maybe sharing a mutual interest. And there are so many different societies in University of Glasgow, like a very wide range, like regardless of what you're actually interested in, you can definitely find something that might suit you, that might like interest you, or if you already have existing hobbies and you just want to carry them out, like in Glasgow as well, I'm sure you're going to find that student society. And it's such a nice experience to meet new people from other degrees, other backgrounds, and whatever you're looking for. I'm pretty sure you'll find that society. And honestly, they're one of the best experiences I've had in university. And I'm so grateful I joined them in my first year.
Do you mind sharing which societies you were part of?
Yeah, of course. Well, in my first year, I joined Glasgow Student Dance Company, and this is my fifth year in the society. I've been on the committee for a year. I've choreographed for 2 years. Likewise, I am doing student theatre at Glasgow. This is my fifth year in the society as well. I'm just acting in a play, which is really nice. And more academically, I'm a part of Glasgow University Law Society, and I'm also in Lawyers Without Borders, and this is my second year in the committee as well. Um, so I feel like the key thing is like time management, but if you can balance your studies with these societies, it's honestly the best experience. And there are social like dance and theatre and film, or more like academic societies, like loads of law societies. There's an international law society, there's like women in law society, there's diversity in law, there's pro bono society. So there is loads of things that you can join and just meet new people, get the network. And honestly, I'm pretty sure you'll find some amazing people there.
I don't know how you found the time to do all of those things as well as your degree, but sounds really cool and interesting. Maybe on a related topic, could you say something a bit maybe about workload on the LLM? Because I know that some people might be a bit concerned, especially if English is not their first language, about coming to the UK, doing a postgraduate degree in English, which is obviously great if you manage to achieve it, and it really can be a huge asset to you in terms of your employability in the future. But how have you found for example, the reading that you have to do for classes, the assessment that you have to do? You still manage to do your student society activities as well, but maybe if you could just share a bit about your experience we have to say this is only the first couple of months of the LLM so far, right? So you
Yeah.
can't speak about the whole year, but maybe just about your experiences to date.
Yeah, the workload is manageable. It is definitely maybe a lot more compared to some other degrees or like some other commitments you had in like high school or your undergrad. But I think like managing your time and prioritizing your tasks is quite important because I'm quite a timetable person. I've always been quite a timetable person. And when you look at the prep you need to do for the seminars that week, and there's always the reading listed there, and you can check how many pages you need to do, and you can have an idea of like how long that will take you to actually understand the lecture that you're going to have or have the preparation ready. So I think it's important to just be on top of things every week, which sometimes can be exhausting, but I think it's very important, especially if you have any other commitments like part-time jobs or like student societies. One thing that is good about the student societies is you can like kind of choose your own level of commitment. Like if you're quite busy one week, no one's going to judge you if you don't show up to the like dance classes. That's fine if you have a deadline. But I think one thing that is important is that you need to have that timetable. And because technically in law, for example, I only spend 6 hours a week in university and lectures. So all the rest of my time is me to prep and actually like get ready for the seminar that week, answer the discussion questions and read it, required reading or the additional reading. Um, so it does require you to be just on top of everything. But I think if you get used to that routine and if you kind of have a timetable on your own and you know your productive hours better than anyone else. So if you're more of a morning studier, I mainly do like if I have a seminar on Mondays, I tend to start either like Thursday and Friday just to give myself quite a lot of time because it's always easier to finish earlier than to show up the seminar not really knowing the issue. Because I think in LLM, it's more of a discussion thing rather than a lecture. Like the lectures will explain if there are certain topics that you're a bit confused about, but you are meant to engage in the discussions and actually maybe have a bit more of a thinking further than the actual reading that you've done. So always, I think, just make sure you prepare for the seminar and just prioritize your tasks according to that. And if you know you have any other commitments, just make sure, obviously, prioritize your degree. But in my last 5 years of uni, I found it quite manageable. If you actually stick to the timetable and your tasks, you can multitask. But obviously, don't commit to the stuff that you think will take over your degree because that's not the point of the societies or that's not the point of your like social engagements because you can do that in another time as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think part of the test of doing the LLM is managing your time and your commitments. And in that sense, it's meant to mirror how real life will be. If you get a job, you will have deadlines as well, and you'll have to manage your time. But as you say, I mean, the amount of teaching that is done in the sense of the number of hours that you spend in the classroom is not so overwhelming that you don't have the chance to do anything else. And we do really encourage you to throw yourself into the international law community here at Glasgow and to attend our events, to do extra reading, to question your lecturers and don't just accept what they say. So sounds like you're going about it the right way. We have a question in the chat from Renita about whether Glasgow is recognised by the Bar Council of India. Now, this is our chat is about the postgraduate degrees in international law, but I think we can briefly say that the Common Law LLB program at the University of Glasgow was accredited by the Bar Council of India in 2019, and we currently have Indian students in Glasgow undertaking the Common Law LLB. Glasgow is in the process of having that accreditation being renewed at the moment. It's not renewed yet. This is proven to be a slow process, and I believe that other UK universities are in the same position. So maybe that is a short answer to your question. And if you have any more questions about this accreditation issue, then please feel free to drop us an email, and we can put you in touch with the appropriate people who are dealing with that and who will be able to give you a more detailed answer. I hope that answers your question in a way. To everyone else, please feel free to drop any more questions that you might have in the chat. Besta and me could chat all day about international law, I'm sure, but this is really designed to be for you. So please don't be shy if you have any questions. And so, Besta, what are you most looking forward to in the rest of the year? And are you already thinking about what happens after the LLM? And have you found anything that Glasgow does helpful in terms of your future career aspirations, your employability, for example?
Yeah, I am quite looking forward to this. Might be an interesting one, but I'm quite looking forward to the dissertation. Actually, I know it's going to be stressful, but I really liked doing an independent research. And this year, I really want to do a collaborative dissertation if I can actually manage to do it. But I find it quite interesting. We had our introductory session to the dissertation, and I think that's quite an interesting opportunity to get involved with. And I'm sure it provides you an incredible network. So I'm quite looking forward to that. And in terms of the opportunities and how the uni is actually helping us in that sense, I think I found it in my undergrad as well. There's a lot of stuff going on that you get constantly emailed about. A lot of speaker events like GESILs, we have Go Justice, Glasgow Open Justice, and they also carry out loads of activities as well. Both in my undergrad and this year as well, I've been going to a lot of speaker events or panel events of organizations like GESILs or Go Justice, and I found them incredibly helpful because I feel especially if you're planning a career in international law, you get to meet with a lot of accomplished people, a lot of people who actually practice in that area that can tell you about their stories and how they actually got there, what they did or what you can do to actually get to that position or a similar position to that if you're planning on practicing. And I feel everyone, all of the speakers or all of the lecturers are very helpful in that sense that you can just pop them an email or just go to their office and just ask for any guidance or any advice. Because most of our lecturers are practicing in that area as well, or doing research papers or holding events like that, and they have an incredible network that they can guide you if you're interested in getting into that field, which I found quite helpful in my LLB as well as this year.
Great, thank you so much. I see there are a couple more questions in the chat. I'll maybe work backwards and take Anna Marie's question. Thank you for this. At the moment, we have, I think it's 10 LLM programs. So we have the LLM in corporate and financial law, the LLM in human rights, in intellectual property and the digital economy, international commercial law, international competition law and policy, international economic law, international law itself, international law and security, technology law and regulation, and then the general LLM program. So a wide range of options that allow you to tailor your postgraduate studies on the LLM here. And we may even be looking at introducing further LLM programs in the future, as we have done, for example, introducing the technology law and regulation program in recent years, responding to developments in new technologies, to make sure that students have the opportunity to come to Glasgow and to really be at the cutting edge of legal research, and to have a degree that allows you to pursue a career in the particular area of law that you want to. Jordan, your question, I mean, we're very glad to have your question, so no need to apologize. Maybe Besta can also chime in here if she has any thoughts. I mean, the LLM program itself is a law-focused one, right? So you have to, I think it's take 5 from 6 of the courses from a list which is set out on the course page. There is some scope with the other course to do other things. You're also free to attend events that are put on, for example, by the International Relations Department or politics. And in that sense, we also, as a law school, are very much engaged in interdisciplinary work. In fact, just last week, we had an event in which an international relations scholar came and presented his new book, Asaf Sinavar, on the arbitration of territorial disputes. And I, as an international lawyer, was commenting, and we also had another international relations scholar from, I think, the Swedish Defence University come, and we had an interdisciplinary chat about territorial disputes from the point of law of politics and law. And so we are engaged very much in interdisciplinary research, and when we have our events, there's a good chance that some of these will have an interdisciplinary angle. That said, the LLM is a legal qualification, and so in terms of your studies, you will still be very much focused on the law. Besta, did you want to maybe add something? I don't know, maybe about collaborative dissertations or, yeah.
Yeah, I think quite similar to what you said. Obviously, our main focus is in law and international law because it's a legal qualification. But in some of our courses, and obviously because sometimes some legal questions and some legal cases do bring like some political questions, some international relations. So there can be some engagements from social sciences. Like one of my classes this year, Advanced Introduction to the Law of the UN, it's a common course between the social sciences students and the law students. Our assignments are slightly different, but we can still engage in like interdisciplinary discussions. People who are doing a social sciences degree are in the same classroom as us, so we can both exchange ideas and opinions in that sense. And again, I think like with the dissertations or like collaborative dissertations as well, like obviously, if you choose to do an area of law, like maybe human rights law, you are expected to engage in the social impacts of those like legal instruments or the legal cases. But yeah, you need to like just keep your focus on the law area, but you can engage in some interdisciplinary discussion in your assignments as well, as long as you keep your focus on the law bit.
Yeah, and maybe just to add, if anyone out there is thinking about doing an LLM but coming from a political science or social science background, we have recently changed our entry requirements. We used to really insist that 50% of your undergraduate credits had to be in law. More recently, we thought maybe that was a bit too much of a constraint, and that people who had undergraduate degrees, for example, in international relations, could still come to Glasgow and meaningfully engage in the LLM process. So now program conveners have the ability to consider applications from those who come from adjacent backgrounds and who may have done some law but maybe not have reached the 50% credit that was previously part of the entry requirement. So if you're thinking about doing an LLM and you're not currently doing an LLB, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are excluded from coming to the University of Glasgow. And again, if anyone has any specific questions, please feel free to get in touch and we will try to provide guidance as much as we can. I think that we're running out of time here. I would maybe just give another 30 seconds or so to give anyone who has a burning question the chance to write it in the chat. Maybe one thing that we didn't mention about international law at Glasgow is maybe some of the other, we mentioned events, for example, but we didn't mention other extracurricular things that one can do here. So for example, I'm one of the Jessup moot court coaches as well, and Glasgow enters a team. So if you're interested in mooting, then you have the chance to do the Viz moot and also the Jessup moot, and we are open to motivated students who want to enter Glasgow into different mooting competitions as well. We've competed in the Jean Pictet, for example, in the past. And also, depending on your course, maybe for example, my course, an international courts and tribunals, that includes every year a trip to The Hague to see some real international courts and tribunals as well. So maybe that might be something that interests you, Besta, for May or June after your exams.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Visit the ICJ and the ICC and who knows what else. But yeah, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So unless, Besta, do you have anything else that you want to say? If not, then I will just thank you very much for your time and thank those who joined us today for your attention and for your questions and comments. And I hope this has been useful, and I hope that maybe we'll see you one day in Glasgow. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, and thank you so much for